Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing well out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great week out there so far. We got a good bit to talk about in this morning's video as severe weather will be making a return for this weekend. Now, there will be risk of strong to severe storms between now and the weekend, and we'll speak on that as it comes to us. In fact, today, a pretty rare slight risk for areas of the Pacific Northwest. So we will spend some time on that when we get to today's forecast portion of the video towards the back half of the video. But our main focus is going to be speaking on this risk of severe weather for this weekend into next Monday. So we'll get detailed. We'll talk about the latest from the Storm Prediction Center as far as their outlooks. We'll speak on the storm system itself. We'll talk about the ingredients coming together to create an environment that supports severe weather for a pretty large area of the country. We'll talk about the winter weather side of this system too, because there will be one most likely. Now, as we're getting deeper into, the year, we're entering more so the warmer season. So we're going to begin to lose that winter weather element to these storm systems, but we still got it, still late March, and we still have it even into April a lot of the time. So we'll speak on that. And we'll spend a little bit of time on a time frame I'm already watching as we get later into next week, as I'm already starting to watch another storm system after this one that we have to deal with for this weekend, and then we'll talk about today's weather. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rocking and rolling. So this is the latest outlook for Sunday. We'll speak on Sunday and Monday's outlook. Because there's already a 15% risk past day 3 for these 2 days, and we'll speak a little bit on a couple other days too. But as far as the outlook, we'll just specifically talk on Sunday and Monday. So this is for Sunday. A pretty large area in the yellow runs a 15% risk of any severe weather. So that could be tornadoes, could be damaging winds, large hail. So I do think damaging winds is probably going to be the biggest threat with this, but we could have a risk of strong tornadoes. We'll figure that out as we get a little bit closer. As of now, just know 15% risk in this entire yellow area of any severe weather. So let's zoom into a couple areas. First off, we'll start from the north and then go south. So Indianapolis, Columbus, Cincinnati, over to St. Louis, down to Evansville, Louisville, Lexington, over to Charleston, West Virginia, down to Bowling Green, down to Paducah, Kentucky, down to Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga, just about the entire state of Tennessee except the far northeast corner, Jackson, Memphis, Tennessee, down to Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Jackson, Mississippi, all the way down to Hattiesburg, Meridian, down to Baton Rouge, not quite to New Orleans, but I'm sure you'll have a risk of strong to severe storms, Alexandria, Shreveport, all of eastern Texas, just about, including Texarkana, to Arklatex, the Dallas area, all the way down to Beaumont, pretty much all the way down to Houston. So they've extended this more so to the southwest, so that's kind of new. A section of eastern Oklahoma, Little Rock, Arkansas, up to Fayetteville, Springfield, Jefferson City, Columbia, Missouri. And so a pretty large area runs a risk of severe weather for Sunday into Sunday night. Now, there is a risk of severe weather, and this is kind of got more of a tilt to it than it did, say, yesterday when we made a video, but we have a 15% risk of severe weather in this yellow area for Monday into Monday night. So we got to watch the beginning of next work week, and this stretches from New Orleans, Meridian, Birmingham, down to Montgomery, Mobile, the entire panhandle and northern sections of Florida, all of Georgia, the entire state, all of the Carolinas, a good chunk of Virginia. The only area of Virginia that's not included in this slight risk is just north of the D.C. area into northern, like Winchester, Leesburg. But areas of the Delmarva, the Tidewater, included in this slight risk, level 2 out of 5, basically is what it is at day 6, which is next Monday. So Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Richmond, Raleigh, everywhere in the Carolinas, including this. So just a 15% risk of severe weather within 25 miles in any given location. So what's driving this storm system? Well, we'll start off Friday afternoon. 21Z stands for Friday afternoon, March the 28th, here in the next couple of days. There is going to be a risk of strong to severe storms for Friday afternoon. I think it'll be for 2 areas, and that's exactly what the Storm Prediction Center highlights. And one is down here and one is up here. Now, you're not seeing a whole lot of anything up here in the Midwest, but I do think we'll have widespread showers and storms for the western deep south and areas of the southern plains, especially eastern Texas, Louisiana. But we'll get this in motion. We start to get to kind of Friday night. We start to see a little bit of splotchy convection up here in the Midwest, which makes sense. A little bit of flow up here and just enough flow down here, and definitely a lot of moisture to work with because you're further to the south, closer to the Gulf down here. So we start to get into late Friday night, more widespread thunderstorms from Nebraska stretching through the Midwest. And I mean, Minnesota, Wisconsin, you can see the splotches of yellow and green up there. And then we start to get into Saturday morning. You see this L right here? That's a low pressure, kind of ejecting off the Rockies, if you will. And here it is. We got to watch this feature. We already are waking up Saturday morning to widespread showers and storms, most likely up the Mississippi River, west and east of it. We probably have some sort of convection ongoing right here also. But as we're getting into Saturday, I do think Saturday will pose a risk of strong to severe storms, but I think there'll be a capping mechanism in place, just an area of warm air aloft that doesn't allow for updrafts to really be exposed to all the elements that can really strengthen these storm systems. And the Storm Prediction Center mentions that, but it's a 999 low. Will we have any thunderstorms? I would say like in this area right here, because if they do have the ingredients to really get going, it would be in that circled area. Now, I think regardless, we're going to have some scattered showers and storms, once again, just like Friday up the Mississippi River Delta area. But are they going to have kind of a severe element to it? Now, up here, this is north of the low, so all this green and stuff, this is more so probably just a chillier rain, I would say. Maybe the colder, wintry side of it, and you'll see that develop as we keep moving here. But this is the area we watch for Saturday. A couple days ago, we had a slight risk for certain areas of the Midwest and the southern plains. We do not anymore. But still think there'll be a risk of strong to severe storms for Saturday. But as we're starting to get into Saturday evening, we'll watch the snow side of this. We'll talk more on that here in a second. We got kind of leftover energy right here. And then another low could develop somewhere, but the Euro really just hanging on to this low up here, which is starting to go into southern areas of Wisconsin. But it gets kind of weird right here. All right, so this is Sunday midday. If you remember watching the video yesterday, we had a low pressure kind of more so in this area. Now it's way up here. So I do think this low that's kind of going through this region could bring, and this is Sunday midday, could bring some storms kind of in this area. But are we going to have any kind of second impulse, like a secondary low, kind of that develops down here and kind of goes that way, or somewhere to the east? Is it going to go more so northeast or north-northeast, more so east-northeast? We won't focus on that for now, but is there going to be another low that forms here as we get going into later Sunday? I think there's a possibility of it, but as we're getting into, say, Sunday afternoon, I know it's everywhere, right? But you see all just kind of these splotches of green and yellow, orange, red, this entire area. And it's wild because if you just tuned into the outlook for Sunday, it pretty much kind of covers this area that I just drew a weird circle around. So you see these splotches of green, yellow, orange, red. These could very well be very strong to severe storms. And we even got convection for Sunday down in the southeast, but are we going to have enough ingredients for this to be severe in nature? It could be. So we got to watch, is there going to be some sort of secondary impulse of energy, kind of surface feature? But I mean, even getting into O3Z Monday, which is like late Sunday night, we got this kind of a line of strong to severe storms going across areas of the eastern U.S., Kentucky, Tennessee, surrounding states. And then we start to get into Monday morning, could have a nasty line of storms sweeping across the deep south, the mid-south, and then we're going to have a day of severe weather for the eastern U.S., especially the southeast as we get into Monday, because Monday is highlighted for the slight risk. So you see these storms down here, slight risk in this area, enough thermodynamics, enough flow shooting across this region to have the overlapping conditions for severe weather. So that's the storm system we're watching. If we look at the actual ingredients coming together, this is the Euro ensemble. This is getting into Friday about midday. Already some deep moisture down here in the western Gulf states, down into over into Texas. We got a little bit of moisture up here in the Midwest, dew points in the 50s. So I'll explain this really quick for any new viewers. when you start to get dew points in the 60s, it definitely supports severe weather. And I know a lot of people want to gauge how humid it is outside based off your relative humidity on your apps and stuff. Is it 90, 100%, 99%? Stop looking at that. Look at dew points. Dew points are the best way to gauge how humid it is outside. So if you look on your app and it says dew point of like 68, it's pretty humid outside. If it's like a dew point of 74, 75, it is miserably humid outside, which is what we see like 3 or 4 months out of the year here in the deep south. But dew points in the 50s, you don't really feel the humidity, but dew points in the 50s will allow for some strong to severe storms sometimes, especially if you're higher up in elevation. So, we're starting to get to, so just keep that in mind as I'm showing you dew points. That's why I explained it. But, we're getting into Friday evening. We got this pool of deeper moisture down here at the surface. Dew points in the 60s. Remember, that supports severe weather. A little bit of touch of humidity and moisture up here in the Midwest. That could aid enough thermodynamics to get these strong to severe storms going. But then we start to get into Saturday. And I really think there could be a dry line feature right here across the southern plains. Dry line meaning it's a separation between dry and moist air, and that could set up pretty dramatic separation too, where you go from dew points in the 20s, 30s, and 40s to dew points in the 60s in a pretty short area of space, if you will, mileage-wise. But dew points in the 60s, upper 60s, shooting up through the Dallas-Fort Worth area all the way up to Tulsa. So we got a pool of deep moisture, and I do think we'll get some storms going, but are they going to be widespread, strong to severe as we're getting into Saturday evening? Now we start to get into Sunday. This is when we start to get the true overlapping of ingredients. So we get to midday Sunday, all the way into Sunday evening. You see this area right here. All right, we got this slither, this huge actually area, what we call a moist sector, extending out like that. And what I'm about to show you next is the upper wind flow pattern is going to be going right over this area. So it's going to be overlapping that very moist air mass. But this is just an area of dew points in the 60s. Going to check that off the box as an ingredient for severe weather. That humid air rising all the way up into the Ohio Valley is going to set the stage thermodynamic-wise to get these severe storms going. These storms love moist air. Now, dew points in the 70s down here hugging the western Gulf coastline. So deep moisture down here. 70s, that's very humid air as far as dew points. And then we start to get into, say, Monday. Uh-oh. I done bothered it. Here we go. We start to get into Monday, and that moist area of air begins to get flattened out, more zigzag, kind of not zigzag, but kind of zonal. I'm using all the wrong words. It's kind of diagonal here. So that field of moist air begins to kind of get flattened out, but still a very moist and humid day across the southeast next Monday. It's going to feel like a day of thunderstorms when you're waking up next Monday across the southeast, but here it is. See all this high humidity? That'll certainly be a thermodynamic that supports severe weather. If you're thinking, Mitch, what in the world are you talking about thermodynamics? When it comes to weather, I'm talking about surface moisture, talking about how high are your temperatures, 70s, 80s, and then your CAPE levels, storm fuel, lapse rates. Okay. Now we look at the energy in the atmosphere, and we get in here in time. Let's go all the way into Saturday here. All the way into Saturday, this is Saturday evening. That's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of energy in the atmosphere right in here. But the Storm Prediction Center mentions a CAP, which is that area of warm air aloft. So we can have all this fuel in the atmosphere. I'm going to kind of move my cursor over this. This is over 2,500 joules per kilogram in CAPE down here deep in Texas. Over 3,000 joules per kilogram in CAPE, and we got an area of over 1,000 joules per kilogram in CAPE that gets all the way up into Kansas City, all the way back to Little Rock, all the way back over to Jackson. So enough fuel in the atmosphere, but is there going to be enough lifting mechanism to get these storms going? Can you remove the cap so these updrafts can explode and take advantage of all the energy in the atmosphere? It's a big question. And the Storm Prediction Center seems to think that there's going to be a cap in place, area of warm air that really prevents any rapid storm development. But we're getting into Sunday. Sunday's a big day of severe weather, I think. We get this, and this is the smooth out Euro ensemble. Look at all this energy. Over 2,000, almost 2,500 joules per kilogram. And this is just a mean and average already early Sunday afternoon across this area. So tons of fuel in the atmosphere. You got the higher dew points. So thermodynamic wise, I think this system is going to be working. For sure. So a lot of fuel extends all the way up into the southern areas in the Midwest, all the way into the Ohio Valley. And then we start to get into Monday. And yeah, I mean, it's not going to be as high, but even 500 to 1,000 joules per kilogram will get the job done. Much higher storm fuel down here near the Gulf coastline where there's deeper moisture at the surface. So definitely areas of energy, though, all the way up into the tidewater will certainly be there. Next thing you look at, which is very important, is the flow aloft. So, Friday, it's going to be a risk of severe weather. And it's probably going to be right here in this area. You see right here in the middle, only 6 knots of flow at 18,000 feet. So this is flow at 500 millibars. Make sure I get that right. Yeah, 500 millibars. All right, so that's way up. Millibars to feet, 500 millibars to feet, it's about 18,000 feet up. But this is a great area in the atmosphere to look to see if we have any favorable wind flow. So right here in the middle of the country, we do not. So you're probably not going to be able to get any storms going. That's why if you look at the Storm Prediction Center outlook for Friday, it has an area right in here, and it has an area right into here. Just not a lot of surface moisture up here, but enough flow to get widespread showers and storms in the western deep south for Friday. Now let's keep this going here. And you see this jet kind of moving across the western U.S., the southwest. Watch that. So we can start to get into Saturday evening. Now, we do have enough flow going over that area of Cape, that high-end Cape that I just showed you for Saturday evening, right over the southern plains. But remember, there's that area of warm air aloft that could prevent these storms to get going. If you get any storms going, I do think you'll have a conditional severe thunderstorm risk across areas of the southern plains right here in this region. It's just, do you get anything going? But as we're starting to get into Sunday, flow really begins to show up. So I put my cursor over here, over 50 to 60 knots of upper level flow riding over this area. So this is basically winds coming out the southwest at just about interstate speed across the southern plains, and then across areas of the Mississippi Valley all the way into the Ohio Valley areas in the Midwest. So this will be overlapping that moist environment that I just showed you with dew points extending out like that. Okay, so that flow will be overlapping that. That's why I do think one of your highest risk of severe weather is probably going to be somewhere kind of up into here. I'm definitely not perfect. You guys know that. But if I had to guess right now, that's kind of the area I would watch. Best overlapping conditions of wind flow, kinematics, and thermodynamics, surface moisture, Cape levels, etc. And then we start to get into, Monday, tons of flow. I would say that the kinematics actually are more supportive as we get into Monday for areas of the southeast and mid-Atlantic. Just stout westerly flow kind of switches to more so a southwesterly flow over this region. But where is your best moisture going to be? It's probably going to be, right into here. Okay, which is why you have that slight risk kind of in that area. So, yep, hope that makes sense. Always try to get better and better explaining that. But there could be a winter weather side of this. We're still watching this. We'll start off Friday morning. This is for my folks up here in the upper Midwest tuning in. As we're getting into Friday, we could have a wintry mix. That's ice, freezing rain. As we're getting into Friday midday up here in the UP of Michigan. But I do think there'll be a lot of warm air involved. But as we're starting to get into Saturday, we start to get into Saturday afternoon. Little cold air catches up on the northern fringe of this precipitation shield. We could start to get a wintry mix in northern areas of Wisconsin, areas of the UP. Maybe a wintry mix in Minneapolis, some snow back here in South Dakota. And then we start to get into, say, the middle of the night this coming Saturday, and maybe an all-out winter storm begins to develop from eastern areas of South Dakota all the way through areas of Minnesota, northern Wisconsin to the UP and Michigan. Just enough cold air to be a pester of a winter weather event. In fact, we get into Sunday morning, it shows some very heavy snow in areas of the western UP and northern Wisconsin, and just an area of freezing rain as we're getting into the last couple days of March. Just ouch, you don't like to see that. And we get into midday Sunday, it's an all-out winter weather event up in the UP. And then we might get another area of winter weather after that. So we're just watching this for sure. There could be a winter weather side of this. And here's the signal for snow, 3-day period. So there is a 2 to 3.5 inch snowfall mean in areas of South Dakota and Nebraska. I know I didn't show you guys much when I was showing you the run. So there is a signal for snow down in Nebraska with this storm system. And then it kind of drops off and then gets bigger. Well, it turns into a larger signal as we're getting into Minnesota. But I mean, Minneapolis has a 3 to 4 inch snowfall mean. So we could get a late March winter weather event. Little bit of a mean down here in Iowa too. And then we get over to the Midwest, see what it shows for you guys. I mean, that's a solid snowfall mean for you guys up here in the UP of Michigan. So, you got over a 6-inch snowfall footprint in this purple colored area here in areas of the western and central UP. So, I mean, even a decent signal here into the eastern UP and northern Wisconsin. So, unfortunately, you guys are going to be the victim once again to the winter weather side of this. You might not view it like that if you like winter weather, but I know a lot of you folks are probably getting tired of it as we're getting later in the year. But I am watching a storm. Not going to talk much on this, but I am watching another storm system after this. We're going to start this Tuesday morning, first morning of April, April 1st. Another storm system begins to pop off, and this is 180 hours out, so it's a 1 week from today. 988 millibar low off the Euro fires off across the plains. Another winter weather event breaks out on the cold side of this, but there's a chance that we get widespread showers and storms, some that could be severe, across areas of the Midwest, the Southern Plains. So when you got a 989 low shooting off on April 2nd, if this is the way it actually happens, you best believe you're going to run the risk of strong storms in this circled area. So this is next Wednesday, a week from today. And then there's a winter weather side of this up here also. So another low we're already watching. And well, I'm sure we'll start to talk about that more and more here in the coming days. And I mean, look at all this storm activity. This is late next Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Look at these storms. So we just got to figure this one out. And then we're getting into next Thursday evening. Look at this widespread storm activity across the deep south. So I think next week could be another severe weather. And then another low pops off here. So I do think next week is going to be another week of severe weather. And, the GFS, though, does not show much of this. Has a low going way up here in Canada as we're getting into next Wednesday. And it is a totally different looking pattern. So that's why you can't just focus on one model run. GFS doesn't support it. Euro is historically the better model, but that doesn't mean we ignore the GFS. Now, I will show you one thing. And the Euro ensemble does respond to what it's showing on the operational run with a spike of moisture up across the middle of the country. So we get into next Wednesday morning, and then next Wednesday evening, it shows moisture building back north for midway next week, with this in response to a low cutting to the north and yanking in a southerly flow, which is bringing up that moisture. So I do think as we get into midway next week, severe weather will be returning for parts of the country. So let's talk about today's weather. We are getting some snow showers, a very wintry start to your morning across areas of like southern Ontario, areas of the Northeast, interior areas of the Northeast. We're definitely going to have a wintry day across the Northeast, but an area of showers and storms surging through southern areas of Oklahoma, northeastern areas of Texas, and areas of southwestern Arkansas. And then we got some energy kind of moving down to North Dakota. Outside of that, nothing too crazy this morning. Watches, warnings, and advisories. Please be aware, upstate South Carolina, which is my state, we have fires ongoing, red flag warnings in the pink, up into Virginia, areas of West Virginia, Maryland, down to northern areas of Georgia, western areas of the Carolinas. Just please be mindful. It's been nice weather, but it's been very dry. So it's not like you're getting temperatures in the 70s and your dew points are in the 50s and 60s. It's been temperatures in the 70s with dew points in like the 20s and 30s. So that is very, very dry. It feels fantastic outside, but it's like more of a dry desert air. So it doesn't take much to get these fires going. Flood watches are up for southern areas of Texas. We'll speak on you guys here in a second. We got some high wind watches and warnings across the west. Now, the risk of severe weather. Interesting day. The lighter green is just a general risk of thunderstorms. I do want to mention there is a risk of strong to severe storms across deep Texas, deep in southern areas of Texas, south of San Antonio. We're probably going to get some strong to severe storms in this area today. But I want to show you guys this right here. Okay, this is a slight risk, a level 2 out of 5 for the Pacific Northwest. The Pacific Northwest, Seattle down to Eugene, Portland, Salem, just wild stuff. Olympia, a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. This is pretty rare. Level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather in this dark green. If you hear my dog in the background, that's Copper, our new dog. He's just a puppy. He's going to bark. You're going to hear that sometimes over the next few weeks. I'm sure most people understand. But level 1 out of 5 risk. Don't ignore the dark green area from Spokane. All the way down to Boise, down to Medford. Level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. So this is pretty wild stuff. And there is a risk of a tornado in Portland, Seattle, down to Eugene. A 2% risk of a tornado. But the big threat today in this region is large hail. Not only in the yellow area do you have a risk of hail exceeding a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger, you also have a 10% risk of larger hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. So the dynamics today coming together in this region support some wild weather. So if you're not used to this, be aware of it. I know I don't have a lot of people viewing from that area, but certainly be aware of what's going on today in this region. Now, I do want to show you guys the excessive rainfall outlook. Don't want to ignore that. There is a moderate risk, all right, at least a 40% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles in any given location. South of Antonio, Corpus Christi, you guys are included in this. So a risk of flooding is legit down here. But we'll speak on that here in a second. Southeast, it's a pretty quiet day of weather for the immediate southeast. Very dry, wildfire risk. Be mindful of that. High pressure, really dry air, but a very nice day expected for the most part. But, we could have some showers shooting down from the northwest into Tennessee, Kentucky tomorrow morning. But outside of that, not a whole lot to talk about. And now, up here in the northeast, a wintry day. You're just going to have snow showers. I'll stop it right here. It's around 2 p.m. Look at these bursts of heavy snow almost throughout the entire state of New York. Now, once you get to New York City, it's probably a little too warm, but I wouldn't be surprised you get some snowflakes mixing in. But look at these aggressive-looking snow showers across the Finger Lakes, the Adirondacks. We got snow showers across Vermont. We got snow showers across northern PA. And this will continue into this afternoon. So just bursts of snow throughout the interior sections of New England, the Northeast. And then as the low tries to deepen, you could just get a period of moderate snow across eastern areas of Maine as this thing just spins around. So snowfall between now and the next 48 hours. Certain areas in the Tug Hill Plateau, the Adirondacks, can pick up 2 to 4 inches of snow. Wet snow accumulations expected in the southern tier, a couple inches possible. Not a whole lot, but it'll be interesting, just a little wintry, late winter day, if you will. So down here in the southern plains, south central U.S., cannot talk. We get into about midday. We'll continue just to get showers over this same area. Kind of the Red River, Arklatex region. It's just been kind of a wet period. And then we'll get this surge of storm activity that moves across southern areas of Texas and will actually cause a flooding threat. I do think the radar will be interesting today in this area. So I am actually going to zoom into this region for you folks. Say hey if you're tuning in from this area, but here's the time frame up here, 9 a.m. This is in Central Time. We get into about midday, lunchtime, and then we start to take it into about 4 p.m. Listen, these storms could pack a punch down here south of San Antonio. If you live south of San Antonio in Texas, widespread strong to severe storms are possible with the risk of flooding also. But, look at all this rain and storm activity just kind of meandering around the same areas. This is 11 p.m. This is midnight tonight. This is getting into after midnight tonight. Still storms ongoing. And maybe it begins to calm down as we're waking up tomorrow morning. And I do kind of want to show you guys the forecast for rain over the next, so Corpus Christi going for over 4 to 5 inches of rain. San Antonio, 2 inches. Victoria, around 4 inches. So a lot of rain down here, guys. There's the color key down here. My face might be in the way if you're tuning in for this area. Once you get into that yellow region, that's where you could get over 4 inches of rain. So a lot expected. So be mindful of those storms today and the flash flooding risk. Now, this afternoon, for the north central U.S., not a whole lot going on. Just some shower activity moving through North Dakota into Minnesota. Just some showers. And this makes it into Wisconsin later tonight. And could get some showers of rain or snow up here in the UP of Michigan, especially the eastern UP later on into tomorrow morning. Outside of that, could wake up to some heavy bursts of rain, some downpours across Illinois, maybe Missouri tomorrow morning, but not a very active 24-hour period. Now, to round this video off, this is where it gets interesting today. Most of the western U.S., not a whole lot happening, but we'll get this surge of storm activity across the Pacific Northwest, and we're just going to go on and zoom into this area. Let's talk about Oregon first. Time frame up here, 9 a.m. And I know I don't have a lot of people tuning in out here, but it'll be interesting even for people just tuning in from out east, because this is not that common. We're getting to 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m., not a whole lot going on. And then bang, vigorous storm development gets going, especially east of Salem and Eugene. But could very well form along this corridor of the valley region. And these storms will pack a punch, guys. A large hail, a brief tornado is possible, and then they'll immediately start to work into Washington state. But they'll be moving fast. I really think it'll just be a several-hour period. But if we do bump this up to, say, Washington and do the same thing again, let's get this in motion here. All right, time frame. This is 10 a.m. today, and we start to get, here it is, bang. Look at these storms. Longview getting storms around 5 p.m. this afternoon. We start to get into about 7 p.m. I really think Seattle region, these storms starting to move in around 5 to 8 p.m. And listen, take your local storm report serious. I know you guys aren't probably used to this out here, but if they throw you under a severe thunderstorm warning, the chances are for very large hail with these storms. And this is 9 p.m., 10 p.m., then just kind of rounds of thunder and showers after that. Temperatures is what we're looking at. A cold day across the Northeast, chilly day across the not the Pacific Northwest, but the Great Lakes region, chilly across the Ohio Valley. You start to get down here to like Tennessee points south and east. It starts to warm up, 70s, 80s, and then it is just flat out feeling like late spring, early summer out west. No wonder why you're getting these strong to severe storms. It's warming into like the 70s, maybe even 80s in the valley regions across everywhere across the western U.S. So very warm day. Folks, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all and have a wonderful and safe day.